Hi there. In this video, we'll be covering how to format a book manuscript. Properly formatting your manuscript could save you tons of time and effort, so you definitely want to pay attention to the tips in this video. By the end of this video, you will learn more about font size, some of the most popular fonts for book manuscripts, and how to create a table of contents. And stay tuned until the end of the video for a free opportunity I really think you're going to enjoy. Let's dive in. It can be scary, it can be overwhelming, it can be a lot to try to figure out formatting for your book manuscript. And really this is all about being as simple as possible. You really don't want to make this too complicated, too difficult, or anything like that. You really want to focus on simple, simple, simple. Because eventually, as you move forward with your draft and as you work with different people, this draft is eventually going to be laid out into book form. So you want to make sure that your formatting is straightforward and easy for the designers to make this process just straightforward and seamless, and to avoid having those strange and difficult conversations of, oh, you're going to have to reformat this. This isn't right. You really have to follow the instructions, whatever the submission guidelines are. A lot of times when you submit a manuscript or a book draft to somebody, to book professionals that are going to work with it, they may tell you which guidelines to follow, so it's great to follow those. But even so, I want to give you some basic and straightforward tips to help you on your way. Font size and font go hand in hand. The most basic, straightforward, easy option to choose, especially if you're using a program like Microsoft Word, is Times New Roman. Times New Roman is the most popular font for book drafts and manuscripts. That's not to say that the book, when it's laid out in page form, is going to use Times New Roman. Sometimes your designer might use a different font that really conveys a different sense of purpose. But Times New Roman is great just to have it in that format. It's the easiest to use, and it's the most professional and straightforward that you're going to work with on that level. So you really can't go wrong if you put it in Times New Roman 12 size font. You don't want it to be too big, you don't want it to be too small, and you want to use a simple font that's easy for the professionals that you're potentially going to work with, or if you're handling this process yourself, you want it to be as straightforward as possible, and Times New Roman is a great option. The ones that I like are fonts like Georgia. Georgia is another similar kind of font, but really keep it simple. You don't want to go with Comic Sans or something ridiculous, unless that's the kind of book that you're trying to publish. So if you want to keep it simple and straightforward, I would stick with Times New Roman 12 size font. Another thing you want to think about is margins. When you're using margins, I would stick to whatever defaults there are, whether it's half an inch or an inch. I usually use an inch for the margin, but just make this as simple as possible. You don't want it to be too complicated or too difficult for somebody to work with the text. One great thing to keep in mind is page numbers. Make sure to number the pages on your draft. This is going to help you a lot. I was working recently with somebody on a book, and we were editing it back and forth, and we had to make edits on chapter 6. And we're trying to go back and forth in terms of where this edit is, and we have to track it by the chapter, or we have to track it by what other words are around it. This is the page where it starts. It's the third paragraph in. Because we forgot to put page numbers on it. It made it so complicated, unnecessarily so. It made it so complicated to avoid not having page numbers on it. And by the time we started working on it, we were working on printed copies of the draft, and we had to go and figure out, okay, this is on 2 pages ahead of where we are, and all those sorts of things. So make sure to number the pages. It's so much easier. It's going to help you, especially if you're working in collaboration with other people. There's a lot of debate back and forth, and it's really a lot of times personal choices in terms of how many spaces to put in between sentences. And the reality is, stick to one. It's so much easier to have one space in between sentences. And if you're struggling, if you're somebody who automatically puts 2, I know you're out there. Sorry that you're somebody who's still doing 2 spaces in between sentences. An easy way to change this is actually, so you finish the entire draft and you can actually go through and automatically, Control F, find all of the areas where you put 2 spaces back to back and change it to 1. Do a force change on all of them at once, and it's going to save you a lot of time and effort. Otherwise, it's going to come back later when editors work with your draft and say, here, 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 here. Every single time they're going to be noting it. So you want to be able to make that change or stick to one space in between sentences as much as you can. Another really important thing in Microsoft Word and other programs is to be able to use formatting to create a table of contents. It can be very confusing and cumbersome to every single time you make an edit to go through and figure out, okay, chapter 5 starts here, chapter 6 starts here, and manually go about doing that. What you can do under the Style tab, it's on the first area of Microsoft Word, you can actually put header 1 for all of the chapters, all the chapter openings, the titles of the chapters, and then go in the front of the document and create a table of contents based on all of those headers. And then it will automatically denote and check those things. And if you have to make changes to it, you can automatically update the table of contents based on the headers. So you avoid having to do those things manually, and it just saves you so much time and effort. If you want to learn more about how to format a book manuscript, you'll definitely want to watch another video that I created. I'll link to it on the screen. It's called How to Publish a Book. In that video, I cover every single step in the entire book process, from ideation to publication on forward, the writing steps, editing steps, design, promotion after the fact. There's so many different things that you can learn in the book process, in so many ways that if you're not aware of these things, people could take advantage of you. I want to make sure that you're making the best choices you can in your book journey, and that you're just as well informed as possible to approach every single step along the way. Remember, a good book can change your life. I'm Dan Good. Thanks for watching.